Rincey, and this is Rincey Reads. Today I'm going to be talking about the book The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie. This book follows Junior, who is a teenage Native American who is living on a reservation. At a certain point in the book, he decides that he wants to not go to school on the reservation anymore, but go to the school where all the white kids go, a little bit farther out, because he wants to have better opportunities for himself. Junior is also a cartoonist, so this book is filled with illustrations that sort of give a humorous take on the situation that's at hand. Junior is very sarcastic and very clever and very witty, so he uses his cartoons as a way to express himself through these tragic situations. You know, it makes it a little bit lighter and a little bit more fun, which also makes it easier to talk about. I really love this novel. It was a really quick read because so much of the book is taken up with illustrations and drawings, so it isn't really as many pages as it looks like, and it isn't even that thick to begin with, but there is a lot of story that happens over the course of this book. Junior is a really great narrator to have for this book. I think it's because he does a really good job of being honest of the situation that he's in. He lives on this reservation, and like most Native Americans who live on reservations, they're very poor. He talks about how there are days where they don't really eat much, and there are days where he can't get to school because his parents couldn't pay for gas to get him there, so he has to hitchhike to school. His father is an alcoholic, just like many Native Americans have an issue with alcoholism. But despite all of that, he isn't using those situations as a way to gain sympathy at all. He's just stating facts about his life. You know, this is the way his life is, and this is the situation he has to deal with, and this is how he deals with those situations. One of the things about Junior is the fact that he is a big nerd, or at least looks like a big nerd, at least the way that he describes himself. When he was a child, he had brain damage, so it's left him with a lot of physical ailments, like he has problems with his vision, so he has to wear like really big thick glasses, and his skull is larger than normal because of certain things that have happened to him physically, and so all of this just kind of adds to his nerdy behavior. Of course, I also kind of take it as he's over exaggerating the way he looks, because I feel like everyone kind of does that to themselves. Like, we see our flaws as being bigger than what they probably are to other people, but because of all these ailments and the fact that he also has a lisp and things like that, so he used to get beat up a lot when he was younger or at his old school. I think this book is also just really relatable if you've ever felt sort of like an outsider. Junior is an outsider kind of everywhere he goes. In the Indian reservation, he's an outsider because he isn't okay with the way things are at the reservation, or he wants better for himself. He wants to do more with his life than what the reservation has in store for him. And then when he leaves the reservation in order to go to the white school, he's definitely an outsider there because he's the only Native American in that entire school, and so he's going to stick out and he's going to be different no matter what he does. One of the complaints I would have about this book is the fact that it feels almost fairy tale like. I'll try not to spoil anything about the end of this book, but for anyone who's read it knows what I mean. But a lot of the things that he goes through, it almost feels like an 80s high school movie, because a lot of things sort of wrap up very nicely in the end, like his situation with friends at school or dating. One big thing is the fact that he joins the basketball team, and I really felt like I was almost watching like Teen Wolf. It almost felt like it was a fantasy sort of, because it just seemed to be a little bit too perfect, if that makes sense. Not that it's impossible for these things to happen, but it just seems kind of unlikely. But I mean, it's one kid's story, so I guess you can make sort of anything happen. He's not saying this is what's going to happen for everyone. I really enjoyed this book. I feel like it's really relatable if you've ever felt like an outsider at all, because you definitely can understand a lot of what he's saying and what he's going through, or at least that's how I felt reading this book. When I rated this on Goodreads, I was looking at some of the negative reviews because I just wanted to see what criticisms people had to say, and a lot of people said that they'd read other Sherman Alexie books, and so it just felt like he was recycling characters or story ideas and things like that, which I guess is possible, but I've never read another book by him before, so I had no idea. So going into it, this just felt so fresh. Also, I'm kind of partial to books that feature a person of color because I feel like it's so hard to find, especially in young adult literature. So I definitely recommend this book for anyone. I feel like this is just a fun book, you know, no matter what age you're at. I think it's also kind of a good eye-opener into how Native American life is like, especially if you don't know a lot about the culture. Not that I'm saying this is exactly what it's like for everyone, but it's definitely a good glimpse into a culture that isn't really highlighted a whole lot. That's my review for this week. Again, I apologize if my voice sounds funny. Like I said in my last video, my voice is still kind of recovering from this weekend, so I probably sound a little bit hoarse. Also, please leave comments down below if you've read this book and what your thoughts are on it, or if you've read other books by Sherman Alexie. I think I would be interested in reading some of his other stuff. As usual, I have my Goodreads, Tumblr, and Twitter linked in the description below, so feel free to follow me on those as well. So yeah, that's all I have for now, and thanks for watching. Today I'm going to be talking about the book The Absolutely True Part-Time Nope. For anyone who's read the book, and obviously I don't want to spoil the endings for anyone who's read this book, and I'll obviously also feel free to leave comments down below if you have read this book and what your thoughts. And it's a really interesting thing to attend. And